Good afternoon. My name's Alicia Gregory, and most of you know me as Miss Gregory, and today I'm going to talk with you about the Selective Reenlistment Program. I'm going to cover some main factors regarding reenlistments and extensions. Most of you in the briefing today certainly know more about this topic than myself, so just bear with me, and let's get started. Okay, first and foremost, the Air Force instruction that governs this program is AFI 36-2606. We do have a fairly new version of this AFI, for those of you who may not realize or be familiar with that. The newest one is dated 20 September 2019. And within this instruction, chapters 11 and 12 are our main instruction and guidance that cover the Air National Guard reenlistment and extension program. All right, let's look at the policy of this program real quick. The Selective Reenlistment Program policy states, reenlistment in any component of the total force, to include the Air National Guard, is not an inherent individual right. It is a privilege and bestows an obligation to serve. So just exactly who governs the consideration for reenlistments and extensions. Airmen may be considered for reenlistment or extension if they meet the eligibility requirements, have qualities essential for continued service, and they can perform duty in a career field in which the unit has a specific need. Now, meeting eligibility requirements, most of you know, you're keeping up with all your requirements, such as your CDCs and other type things that are required of you, your physicals and your physical fitness testing and that type thing. Okay, we covered the policy. Let's look at the objective of this program. The Selective Reenlistment Program objective is to ensure that the Air National Guard retains only airmen who consistently demonstrate the capability and the willingness to maintain high professional standards. The Selective Reenlistment Program applies to all enlisted personnel. Since the Selective Reenlistment Program covers all airmen, who has a say-so in your reenlistment and your extension? Commanders have total Selective Reenlistment Program selection authority as long as no other factors exist regarding immediate reenlistment. And when I say factors, some of these type factors might be UIFs, the unfavorable information files, as Sergeant Fitzgerald referred to the other day in one of the briefings that he provided us. That's certainly a factor that may regard immediate reenlistment, as well as the weight management program. The weight management, being a participant in the weight management program might have a bearing on your consideration for reenlistment. Okay, folks, keep in mind on this statement how important it is. Being rendered ineligible to reenlist can impact an airman's opportunity to be selected for an assignment, promotion, and or retraining, and may impact the airman's future eligibility to be retained. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you are coming up for reenlistment. Okay, now that I've covered the objective and policy, I want to talk a little bit about the package itself, the forms that's needed, and exactly how this package is compiled. As you can see, I've made a list of the forms. And with these forms, there's a checklist that will accompany this package. Sometimes the squadrons will even throw in their squadron routing transmittal sheet, and that's okay. That's not a required form, but some of them still utilize that form. I did not list the checklist nor the transmittal sheet, but the checklist is definitely one that will accompany the package. You can see I've listed, starting off with the main two, or the main one or the other, DD Form 4, your enlistment or your reenlistment document, and you notice this is the Department of Defense form. All branches of service utilize this form for reenlistment and enlistment. The Air Force Form 1411 is an extension form, whereas a person, for whatever reason, the commander may deem that reenlistment is not an option, but they're going to extend that individual, and most of you know, in some cases, that is because of a physical fitness testing, maybe meeting a medical board, such things as that type nature. That is the two main forms. It'll be one or the other in the package. Now, we also look at the Air Force Form 2030. That's your United States Air Force Drug and Alcohol Abuse Certificate. That's a required form in the package. The Air Force Form 418, Selective Reenlistment Program Consideration for Airman form. It is required as well. You see I've listed the fitness score sheet. I can certainly say from my time back in the day in the Guard, the fitness program has changed significantly, and that is a major factor now in your reenlistment and your extension, and it must be a satisfactory score, so that's a requirement with the package. The next form, the National Guard Bureau Form 3621, the Air National Guard Eligibility Checklist for enlistment, reenlistment, or extension. That is a required form with the package. And then the last form I've listed is National Guard Form 173-1. That is your career, your retention interview record form. It is optional, but I am seeing more and more of these forms included in the reenlistment packages. So being a former retention manager for this base, I'm pretty optimistic about that. So those are your main forms that are in your package when we receive them in the personnel section. Okay, how we receive this information. The command support staff within each squadron informs commanders on a regular basis the information regarding the airmen that are upcoming due to reenlist. And this is extremely important because we don't want anyone to, for their reenlistment to expire and them not have been allowed the time to prepare the package and get it to us. The command support staff, they submit this package to us. They upload it into OneNote, and that's how the Force Support Squadron receives the package. So now we have all our forms that we know that have to come into the package, and there should be the checklist with those forms. So let's look at this package, okay? The main thing is we want to ensure first off that we have the documents that are required that I listed in a previous slide. And once we know that all the documents are in there, we need to review these documents to ensure, number one, that we know all the documents are in the package that, like I said, that are required. And we want to verify the date of enlistment that the document matches MIL-PDS. This is something that we are constantly seeing in our packages we receive in OneNote. A lot of times, some of our CSS are, they're pressed for time, and we do try to remind them on a regular basis to please refer to MIL-PDS and ensure you have the correct date that you're preparing on the documents that you're submitting for the package. And of course, in the list of the forms, I did tell you the main enlistment form is your Department of Defense Form 4. And this is one we look at very close to ensure, like I said, in item 5, on the date of enlistment, we want to ensure that is that does mirror what MIL-PDS states regarding this member. And also, too, we want to ensure that the Social Security number is correct on the form. This is another item that we find sometimes that's easy to be a typo, and we're not allowed to correct this with the pen and ink change. So this is something we have to look at close. And like I said, the Social Security number is very seriously important. Okay, and on all of these forms, there's areas for signatures and areas for initials. For instance, on your Air Force Form 2030, the United States Air Force Drug and Alcohol Abuse Certificate, the area midway down in Section 2 requires statements that the individual must read and initial. The first statement that states, "I have read and understood the definition of the terms above," should, for the most part, be marked yes. However, most of the other statements do, we hopefully know that the person is answering with no. So sometimes it's very easy for one of the mistakes that's made is all of them are automatically initialed no, when we know sometimes they get in a hurry and they're not reading the statement. So you want to ensure the statements are marked according to what you know those questions that are being asked. And certainly to ensure the signatures on this form. And like I said, this is a required form so with the package, so we do want to make sure that's correct. The National Guard Bureau Form 3621, which is your eligibility checklist, this is another one that is hugely important in regards to where the member initials statements that they are reading. And in Section 1, for all applicants, the first statement or question the individuals ask is, "Are you a conscientious objector?" We want to definitely pay attention to that. If at any time you come across a package that does have a member that has initialed yes, that is definitely a showstopper. For that moment, you need to ensure that you contact your CSS person and let them know that this is something that must be looked at with the commander and discussed with that individual, and the package cannot further be processed at that time until we have been notified again from the commander that we have the okay to go ahead with that. So make sure you look over your forms in detail and ensure that the initials are in the correct place based on the question that's being asked on the form, and also that all the required signatures are completed and dates are completed on the form. On your Air Force Form 418, that's another thing, the main thing, we want to ensure that the commander has signed it and dated it, and the member has signed and dated it. In Item 3, Unit Commander, Detachment Chief that's selected for reenlistment, we want to make sure that box, one of the others marked, but certainly we hope it's the first one, they're selected for reenlistment in this package. So that gives you a little idea and heads up on exactly what we look for on those forms when they come into us in the package in OneNote. Once our package is approved and reenlistment extension updates have to be made in our Mill PDS and DEERS. We also have to check our SITREP report that's on our drive to ensure that an update's not to ensure that we update this individual if they are on that report, to make sure we make the DOE, the date of enlistment, update on that report as well. Most of you are familiar, I'm sure, with how we go into Mill PDS. I don't have slides to show you those screen prints, but once we go into Mill PDS and we are logged in, we select on customer service and we go in, and you're going to enter that data for the term of enlistment and the date of enlistment, and so you want to ensure that you get those two areas updated under extra information and the other tab under customer service, as well as in DEERS. All of you are familiar with how to log into DEERS and update this information under their personal information, characteristic type information. So the main thing is, this must be updated in Mill PDS and DEERS, and you want to ensure that while you're taking these steps with this package, there are blocks on this checklist that has accompanied the package that require initial, and that way you can keep up with exactly what part of this package has been, what part of the process you're at with the package, so that allows us not to miss a step as far as updating these various systems or proof of the documents itself and that type thing. Once we've made these updates to the package and everything is good to go. We are required that we do distribution on this package. Most of you are familiar with the distribution, and it's not that difficult. We do send a copy of the main forms to ARPC and the state headquarters, and we file the entire original package. An entire copy of the package is also given to the retention office manager. So that ensures that we've done the distribution, and you also want to initial that part off on the checklist. So I know most of you probably don't have any questions for me, because you certainly, like I said in the beginning of the briefing, that y'all are all very well familiar with this process. You've certainly taught me quite a bit about it, and for that I appreciate all of you and all the support I've received from you. If you have any questions or comments, I've included my email address. Shoot me an email, and of course if I can't answer it, I'll certainly get an answer for everyone. But I appreciate you joining the briefing this afternoon, and thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Take care.